Fast cars, fast money. We're back. Hopefully, you just got done watching our truck video. If not, it's live up on our YouTube, and you can also find it over on our Twitter, which is at FastCarsFM. That's where we post all of the spreadsheets that you see here. We'll link the videos as well, and we'll just basically post anything NASCAR DFS related. So it's a good channel to check out to stay informed with what's going on. So let's look at the Xfinity race this weekend. Similar strategy that we have for the Truck Series race. So this race is only 90 laps, meaning that dominator points really aren't that important. You really want to focus on place differential for the most part. Pocono is a very long, flat track, doesn't have a lot of banking. It's really just how you get through the corners to set your car up for that long straightaway is where drivers are going to excel and be able to make those passes. So usually the more skilled drivers who are a little bit more technical, who can get through those corners the best, usually perform well here. Pocono is also really unique. It's a triangle. It doesn't really compare too much to any of the other tracks that we have on the circuit. So it's kind of its own animal as far as with looking at lap data. But starting with Austin Cindric down to Sam Mayer for the driver by driver breakdown. I guess we'll start with you, Rich. If you're looking at Cindric down to Mayer, who are the top plays you want to pay up for?
Well, we'll start with Austin Cindric. He's probably the best driver week to week in the series. In one of the best cars. Starting 13th, he offers a great amount of place differential, at least 10 spots. Probably will finish top 3, fight for the win. And the same thing goes for Ty Gibbs. We've seen him in this 54 car a bunch, and he's run within or run inside the top 5 most of the time. So I have no problems playing him at 14th either. I haven't really built too many Xfinity lineups yet, so I haven't really seen like what the value or how the value situation, how the lineups will go. So it might be tough to build with both of those guys, but I'll probably start my initial lineups with both of those guys and see how it goes. And then don't really like Gragson too much this week. He's finally got back-to-back top 10s for the first time in like a month after wrecking out and just having a whole bunch of issues. Starting 7th, it kind of limits his upside a little bit. We know the JRM cars are fast, so he might be able to move up a few spots, but I'd prefer to pay up for the guys above him or pay down for the guys below him that offer more place differential. Justin Allgaier starting 2nd. He's more of a GPP play this week, in my opinion, just because he's starting 2nd doesn't really offer any place differential. He could lead a few laps early on in the race, but he'd have to, lead a fair amount of them and still be able to finish top 3 to pay off the price tag. And the last 2 guys here, Barry and Mayer, are actually, funny enough, Barry is no longer in the 8 car anymore this year. So it's going to be Sam Mayer for, I think, the rest of the races in the 8 car. So Barry, he'll probably get a lot of time in this 31 Jordan Anderson car. Starting 33rd, he offers a ton of place differential. We've seen a bunch of different drivers in this car, and it seems to run in the top 15 for most of the race. So I have no problems with Barry either.
Yeah, I agree with you there, Rich. I think Cindric and Gibbs are the clear top 2. Couldn't ask for a better starting spot for DFS purposes. I don't think it's going to be long before we see the 2 of them up front. But the guy I like out of this range the most, or, besides the 2 of them, would be Josh Berry. Starting 33rd. Unless something freaky happens, I don't really see him moving back. I think he's only going to move forward. We know that dude can drive the wheels off a rig, and he's just trying to solidify a full-time ride for himself. So I could see him racing the wheels off that thing, getting a top 10, and he gets a top 10, he's going to crush for you. And just a little contrarian to guys that might be running both Cindric and Gibbs, and saves you a little bit of salary to maybe move up into one of those mid guys.
I might be misremembering, but it seems to me like Austin Cindric hasn't been the most expensive driver hardly at all this season, even though he's been the best driver in Xfinity. So it's kind of refreshing to see him as the most expensive driver, really where he belongs. We've been plugging Cindric in all year, and he's got to be the favorite to win the race every week. With Ty Gibbs and Noah Gragson, most likely the 2 that are going to be on his heels. Ty Gibbs also offers a little more place differential, so and he's been phenomenal in his rookie campaign here. So really like Ty Gibbs as well. I also think Allgaier is an interesting GPP play. If he can get out front of Burton early, I could see him leading for a while. So I know that there's only 90 Dominator points or only 90 laps available, so not too many Dominator points, but every little bit you can get helps. And in a GPP line, I don't mind Allgaier all that much. And then Josh Berry, there's nothing not to love about him starting 33rd, and great opportunity to move through the field and score you a lot of points. So I like that play as well.
Yeah, I think you brought up a good point. Like, I think for me, when you're building lines, it's okay, who's going to lead the early part of the race potentially before the main driver that you're plugging in your line takes over. And I think the two main drivers that we like the most and that are most expensive are going to be Cindric and Gibbs. So like Coop was saying, who is a guy that you can pair with either one of those or even both of those drivers, depending on how low you really want to go, to lead the early part of the race, with the intentions of they're still going to earn you those Dominator points and then probably still finish in the top 10. So hopefully we'll still have a good DFS day. I think Allgaier and Burton are going to be the two favorites to do that just because they start on the front row. But another guy that I think potentially, if he gets a good restart or if the other guys slip up, is AJ Allmendinger. Pocono is a very technical track. It has those flat corners that kind of mirror a road course somewhat. So I think Cindric is probably my favorite play because of that. But I think Allmendinger isn't that far behind, is potentially a GPP only type of play that could potentially be low owned and get up front. And even if he doesn't get up front, I think he should run top 5 for most of the day. And then Daniel Hemrick's another guy I like. He's pretty fast with the Joe Gibbs equipment there. But what about you guys? Do you guys like anyone else in the 9K range?
Yeah, I can agree with you there on AJ Allmendinger, technical track. Like you said, I think the other two are going to get the ownership starting on the front row. I mean, I find it hard to see Allmendinger not finishing in the top 5. So if you can lead even 10 or 15 laps, get 10 fast laps, I mean, that adds up at the top 5, and I think he'll pay out that price tag, maybe hopefully come in a little bit lower ownership. Other guy in this range that I wouldn't be afraid of, be a little more GPP if you're going with some of those higher guys, would be Daniel Hemrick starting 6. He's, been pretty consistent about running the top 5 all year, still looking for that win. So gets a top 5, could kind of be the forgotten guy out here if people are going with Allgaier or Burton starting on the front row, and then Cindric and Gibbs. You can come in with really low ownership. He gets top 5, maybe lead some laps or something for you. You could really pay off at super low ownership.
I think all these guys are GPP plays for the most part, and I think honestly the way that the order that they're priced in is my interest level. Maybe I'd switch Brandon Jones and Harrison Burton, but for the most part, I think they're GPP only plays. And if you want to plug them in, it's a great way to differentiate yourself, because I don't think they're going to see too much ownership on any particular driver in this range.
Yeah, I agree with everything you guys said there. But if we move on down here to the 8K range, we were really high on Riley Herbst last week. Got a ridiculous price increase this week. Kind of makes him unplayable with his starting spot. Limits his upside. So that's kind of why we have him at low ownership. Justin Haley, he's been running around the top 12 most of the year. We haven't really seen him running inside the top 5 for a lot of races. So, I mean, he could end up getting a solid finish from there and paying off. But probably the best play in this range, and even that, it's a tough play, is Brandon Brown. He's another guy who saw a really large price increase this week. I mean, starting 24th, he does offer a solid amount of place differential upside, but at the price, it kind of limits it a little bit. So he would need, like we have there, a 12th place finish. And I think he's only finished in the top 12 3 times this year. So it's kind of hard to see myself paying up for Brandon Brown, even though we generally like him most weeks. So that's where I don't really see myself getting into this range that much.
Yeah, the 8K range is interesting, like you were saying. A lot of these drivers got priced up. We see Riley Herbst at $8,900, which again, it's we love that equipment, we love that car, but Herbst starting 10th for that price tag, it's really hard to feel good about that. Same thing with Brandon Brown. Like, he has the place differential baked in. We know he's going to move forward. He should be running top 15, top 12, like Rich was saying. But $8,300 is a lot to pay. And potentially you might be able to find some other good value plays that are lower on the slate that will give you that salary relief. That way you don't have to go as low, or it allows you to earn or pick up some of those top price drivers. So I'm not too crazy really about anyone here. If you're building multiple lines, I think you just kind of sprinkle some ownership around, with my interest levels probably being, I don't know, probably Justin Haley would probably be my favorite, and then Brandon Brown, and then Riley Herbst. But it's pretty close for me for all these guys here.
Yeah, I would like to mention that Justin Haley is running the Cup race ahead of the Xfinity race, and then running another Cup race after the Xfinity race. So he will have some laps under him, different car, different series, but he'll have some laps on Pocono under his belt that a lot of these other drivers, they won't have that. So that's a big plus for Justin Haley. I think he's another good. I think he's maybe even better than the GPP play. I like Justin Haley this week. I think at 8,700, it's about the right price for him. Not as interested in Brandon Brown and some of the others. If they were cheaper, as they have been in the past few weeks, I'd be very interested. Just not for me this week. And then moving down, the driver I really do like in the 7-8K range is Snyder. He has been a little rough recently, but he had a really hot start to the year, and I think he can get right back to where he was if they have the right car and the right package for this, the right setup for the race this weekend. So I don't mind plugging Snyder in. Starting 19th offers a good bit of PD there for you, and can offer some salary relief if you go up for the higher guys too. He's a nice mid-ranged price driver.
Yeah, I mean, I think the 7K range is very similar to that 8K range. It's just hard to find somebody you absolutely love. Also hard to find somebody I necessarily hate. But I think Austin Hill and Snyder are probably the two here, just because they offer, the most PD there. And if you're paying for those higher guys, you're expecting them to get the dominator points for the rest of your line. You're just focusing on that PD. So these would be the two out of this side. Well, or this price range I like the most. But again, don't necessarily love anybody. But if I land here, I'm not going to be upset. I'm going to take the play I get the PD, and take the money to the bank.
Yeah, I agree. I actually think I might like Austin Hill a little bit better than Snyder this week. We saw Hill in the Satori car last week, and he ran really well in it. I would not be surprised to see him in the top 10 by the end of this race. I like both of the plays, to be honest. And I'll probably have I think I'm going to limit myself to 2 to 3 lineups this week. The 20 maxes haven't been working out in my favor, so I'll probably have both of those guys in my lineup. So do you have anything to say about these guys, Andrew?
No, I think you guys nailed it. We can move on down to the 6K range. I like the 6K range. I mean, some of these drivers, I think Brett Moffatt's an interesting play. He's pretty cheap, only $6,700. He starts 17th. Moffatt's a good driver. The equipment is decent. I would rather pay down for Brett Moffatt than I think pay all the way up for Brandon Brown. I think their upside is very similar. And I'd rather just take the price savings with Moffatt there. Same thing with Sieg. Sieg's interesting. He's a very similar play, I think, to Jeremy Clements. He just starts 3 positions further back, and this equipment's good enough to stay in that top 12, top 10-ish range. And that's really what we're looking for. We're either looking for place differential points or finishing potential with value. And I think both Sieg and Moffatt offer good finishing potential. They don't have a ton of place differential, but the finishing potential is there. I think they can finish a lot higher than a lot of these other drivers who are in there. Like, I don't see Tommy Joe finishing any higher than a Moffatt or Sieg. Same thing with Joe Graff and Landon Castle. They might draw ownership because of where they're starting, but I'd much rather take a couple of risks and hope that Moffatt finishes 12th and Sieg finishes 10th. I think they're going to outscore someone like Joe Graff, who would finish 28th, for example. But I don't know. Did you guys kind of have the same approach there at all?
I think Brett Moffatt's a steal this week. I think he's wildly underpriced. I think starting 17th, $6,700. I think he's out of everybody that's below 7K. He is the I don't want to call it a surefire bet, but he's got the best chance of really putting in a good race and getting your line a lot of points from somebody that doesn't cost very much. So I'm very high on Brett Moffatt this week. And Sieg, again, great GPP play. He seems to always start like 10th to 15th and generally places better than 15th. So don't mind the Sieg play either.
Kev?
Yeah, I mean, I can agree. I think Brett Moffatt's the best play out of this price range. Again, Sieg, maybe Castle. The pricing just kind of seems a little goofy this week, so I think I'm going to try to maybe get like Moffatt, punt player 2, and then just try to jam in as many of those top tier guys that offer the most upside and whatnot. Yeah, I mean, you have anything different there, Rich?
No, I think you guys pretty much nailed it. We generally like Tommy Joe Martins most week because he starts a little bit farther back, but starting 18th, it kind of limits his upside because that's about where he'll finish. 18th, 16th, that's like the top end of his finishing potential. But if we move on down here to under 6K, Jade Buffer, he burned a lot of people last week, myself included. But starting 29th, he offers a ton of place differential. He's got top 20 upside, probably even closer to top 15 upside in this car. He's run well, pretty well this year. So I got no problems with him. Not really on Jeffrey Earnhardt most weeks, but he's starting in the back. He offers a decent amount of place differential upside. He doesn't need to do too much to pay off. A 26th place finish is all you need for 5 times value. And then another guy we really like down here is Colby Howard. This car is good enough to finish in the top 20, top 25. That would easily be enough to pay off the $5,200 price tag on Colby Howard this week.
I agree. I don't have much to add here. Really like Earnhardt and I like Howard. Those are the two that if you really need to drop down low, those are the two I would target.
Yeah, one guy that I think is interesting is Carson Wire. It's not Cody Ware, it's Carson Wire. It's actually Cody Ware's younger brother. But we saw him run this Pocono race last year, and he actually did okay. I forget what his finish was, but it was a top 25 finish. And we know that 17 equipment is decent. So if you need to go that low, that's probably as low as I would go. But as always, if you're playing a lot of lines, don't go overweight on any of these punts. You just want to kind of sprinkle your ownership around. But the guys that we would try to get ownership to would be Buford, Howard, Earnhardt, Perkins, and then Ware. Everyone else, I think, either starts too high or is probably going to get outscored by these other punt plays. Anything else to add, Kev?
No, I mean, I think you guys hit it all.
All right. Well, that'll do it for the Xfinity video. Our truck video, like I said, is already up. If you guys have made it all the way through the video, you obviously like our content. So liking the video, subscribing to the channel if you haven't, really means a lot to us. And we will catch you on the Cup video.